Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hey, if you haven't subscribed already, think about doing it. Give us a thumbs up if you think we deserve it. Today we're going to go look at a couple mines we visited while we were out camping. We spent a weekend up there and explored some mines. Today we're just going to look at two of those mines. I did a little something different on these. My original plans had changed, so I just carried the cell phone. We shot it in 4K. I'm going to see how this turns out. I just started editing the video, and I set this up to do the intro. And outside, I hear the kids out there playing, yelling. The kids are always yelling, having fun. Well, they were constantly yelling, and I still didn't pay it a lot of mind because it didn't sound like anything too urgent. Well, the wife calls me up, hey, there's a rattlesnake right outside your office, heading towards the kids on the trampoline. Sure enough, walk out there, here's this big rattlesnake slithering across the yard right towards the trampoline that they're playing on. Needless to say, the rattlesnake took the Homestead temperature challenge. I know there's some folks out there that think you should transplant snakes or do something with them. That's not my philosophy at all. If they're near my house, they're goners. The only snakes we let slither away are gardener snakes or water snakes, things like that. Any other snake around here, they're going to meet their demise. So this was a big snake. If I could have kept him straight, he would have been about, when I was trying to measure it, about 39.5 inches long. That's pretty big for a rattlesnake around here. He just ate something. You could tell he's pretty good size, bloated up. And a lot of buttons, a lot of rattles on him. Yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the, I guess, drawbacks to living out in an area like this. You're going to get rattlesnakes. You're going to have to deal with them. It's just part of life living out here. I think the worst year we've ever had is I think we killed 17 or 18 snakes on our property, 11 of them or 12 of them right close to our house. This one was going right in between the office and the house. So, you know, within 50 feet of the house. We've killed 2 or 3 this year right at the front step of the house. They slither up and try and get in the shade during the heat of the day. Yeah, it is what it is. But I just wanted to share that with you. That happened just like a few minutes ago. So, snakes. And we found that a 40 caliber pistol with snake shot does wonderful things to snakes. One of the best things, I used to use a 38, and you had to get fairly close to the snake to do a lot of damage to it and finish it off quick. So we found the snake shot for the 40 cal made by, I think they're made by Spear. Really good stuff. If you're around snake country, highly recommend that stuff. It does a great job. Does a good job on pack rats too. Anyway, back to the mine. These two mines, the Magnolia and the Ajax Mine. These were not planned on the trip going up there. I was going to visit a couple other mines, and those just didn't quite pan out that day. So we went and visited these mines. I had them like 3rd or 4th tier on my list of places to visit. They were on my phone as just marked as spots to go visit. So I didn't have a lot of information going into those. So we're going to be doing a voiceover for most of this video because I had to come back and read about them, figure out what the history was on those mines. I still don't have a ton of history on either one of these mines. There's not a lot written about them, but they still are interesting mines, even though it was a bear getting into them the way we took. So hope you enjoy. Let's jump into the video. You'll hear me complain in several spots through the video about how overgrown and hard this was to get to. When we started out, it looked like this. A nice road. I didn't think there would be any problem getting into this mine, but that quickly changed. First, we walked past the road that we were supposed to go down because it was so overgrown we didn't even notice it. We quickly realized our mistake and headed back and got on the right road. That road started off like this, but it quickly turned into a jungle not far down the road. And before long, we were walking in an area we couldn't hardly see 20, maybe 40 feet in front of us. And the boy leading the way, he stumbled across this open stope from an adit down below, we assume. We looked at it for a little while and then continued our walk on down the hillside. Further down, we found many more collapses from the stope We didn't find any more that were completely open, but there were an abundance of stopes that had collapsed in. And in spots, the timber was so thick you couldn't hardly find the road. But finally we came to an opening and got on the right track again. Feels like we've been walking for 2 miles and we're probably only 1,000 feet from where we started in a direct line. At least it's cleared up a little bit down in here. Not quite so thick. Hoping to come up on what's indicated as a mine here before too long, we hope. Let's see where our road went. Yeah, maybe it's still going. Looks like we might be coming up. Well, I think this is a stope that's collapsed in. Looks like there might be a tunnel or an adit over there, but this is a collapsed stope. Looks like below there's more of them. Probably really hard to see through all that timber. So there's the collapsed stope we just walked past. Down below us, another big collapse. So somewhere down in the timber below us, there's an adit coming in below us. So here is the adit that was indicated on the map. I'm a little hesitant to walk up through here because I know there's another mine down below, just looking at the collapsed stopes down below us. So not really open. Even if it was, up the hillside on the walk in, there was collapsed areas all through there. So anyway, that's part of the Magnolia Mine. We'll keep walking. Down below it indicates there might be a couple old cabins on an old map, but who knows if they're still standing. So as thick as this timber is, survey marker, as thick as this timber is, it's really hard to tell how big this waste rock pile is, but it looks fairly decent sized. My troopers that have come with me, we did not expect to go on this hike today. Everybody in shorts and scratching our legs up coming through the timber. Injuries, but they're being troopers. Got a little bit different angle on that waste rock pile. I would say it goes in at least 600 feet or so, just from the waste rock. Could be more. This timber in here is so thick. Okay, we've made it down to a nice meadow here. I think that's the road we're going to hike out down there. Here's these old buildings that were indicated on the map. I was hoping one of them might be standing, but no such luck. Still neat to see. And by the way, one of these days, that is going to burn up, and there's nothing anybody's going to be able to do about it unless it's thinned beforehand. This is so thick in here. Fire gets established in here, it's going to go. Watch for nails, buddy. We're a long ways from the rig. Watch those nails. I'm seeing most of the nails are round head. So it's not as old as some. Still a pretty old building. There's another one over there. Let's go take a quick look at it. Well, that's very discouraging. Hiked all the way in here, and then I see tracks, side-by-side tracks right there. So there is a way to get in here with a side-by-side. Evidently, I don't know the secret. Looks like the privy was up there. Another little building here. It is getting very warm today. I don't know, it's up into the 90s. And right up over there is the Cougar Independence, and that's the mine I really wanted to go to today, but the gate was locked and it goes through some private land. So I decided to, until I can get permission from the landowner, I'm gonna call it on that one. That's the one I really wanted to go to today. But I saw this one on the map and thought we'd give it a try. So it would appear, looking at the map, there might be a little bit more workings down below, maybe another old building. We're hoping to find out. The kids are exploring that old cabin or whatever that was, building of some kind. You know, this was built after the log cabin era, evidently, but I see down below the road's cut open. So I tried to find a way in here and evidently I failed, but I see somebody's freshly cut that open. So we're going to follow that out and hopefully it leads down to where my wife's parked to pick us up. Otherwise, it's going to be a rough hike out of here. That hike getting down in here through that stuff was terrible. When we parked up above, I think it was 800 to 1,000 feet down to this adit is what the map showed, you know, direct line, but the way we had to go was quite a bit further than that. So up ahead, looks like we've come across a cabin.
Really? It's not too bad now.
This is a pleasant surprise.
This should definitely go in.
Look at it for a second before we try and go in.
It's not with pieces. Yeah. Something that too.
Well, the pack rats have been in here. Old fridge. Cool old cook stove. Full of pack rats. Wow.
So that was smelled. Let me look.
Look around the outside real quick.
You can see it before. Oh no.
Old batten board. Boy, does this thing smell bad.
It The pack rat was here. The pack. I bet Mr. and Mrs. Pack Rat lives here. The family lives here. Family of Pack Rats lives there. Hey, look at that chimney with that big barrel on the top of it.
Yep, to keep water out.
So it won't smell even more and the wood won't get rotten.
Let's go. That board's been up there a while. God, it's growing around that tree.
That's the hay.
Looks like we may have a adit over here.
Yep. Watch out, Billy. Think fast.
Danger! Open mine shaft, no trespassing. Okay. This looks like it's completely collapsed now. It is still leaking some water. Lots of iron oxide in it. But yeah, it's completely collapsed in now. And you can see that slump in above. That means it's collapsed even further back in there. So even if you dug this first little part out, right back there, it's going to be collapsed. And we saw collapses clear up the hillside up there. So evidently they had, in many places, stoped up on a vein here and come close to the surface. And this has just collapsed over the years. Well, let's go see how much waste rock is out here. Pretty good sized timbers. Somebody was planning on doing some work in here at some point, I would guess in the 1980s or so. Fairly substantial amount of waste rock shoved back, but this is pretty flat out here, so it's pretty deceiving. Kind of like steep hillsides can be deceiving how much waste rock there is. On more level ground, it can look like there's just a ton of waste rock, and there's really not nearly that what you think. So yeah, I would guess in the 1980s somebody come in here and did some work on this with some mechanized equipment.
Didn't get very far.
Most of this rock is argillite. See a little bit of quartz here and there. Well, down the draw we go there. According to the map, it looks like there's a couple more mines down below us, so we'll hopefully be able to see those on the way out.
I think I see one.
Settling pond right there for that water that's got so much iron in it. A lot of information floating around about how bad this water is. It's that colored with that iron oxide in it. But really, if you put a couple, 3 settling ponds in, give it time to settle out before it goes out into any creeks, it's not that big a problem to deal with. Now, if you do let it go down creeks, then there's some issue with that. But you can see here just what time it's had to settle from the adit opening to here, down in here to the bottom end of this pond. Is essentially clear by here, so not bad. So here's the first settling pond. Here's the second one. I think there's a little adit right over there. But in theory, almost all of it will settle out up through there. And this will give a chance for any other heavy metals to settle out right here. And along with the iron oxide, a lot of times there's some arsenic mixed in there too, and you want to give all that water a chance to settle that stuff out before it gets into a live stream. So let's dive into the history on this mine. Now, before we get too far into this, I want to say that so many of these old mining reports, like the one you're looking at right here, did not have dates on them. It amazes me. They drew so many maps and reports on these mines, and they just didn't date them. And it kind of just blows my mind that you're looking at this really great information, but no date on it. For instance, this report I'm looking at talks about a previous report, and it says the report was probably done about 1920 by a guy named Smith. So, but if you scroll through this report, it doesn't have a date on it either, so there's really no way to know when this was done. I'm guessing this was in probably the 1930s, late 1930s, because one of the maps has a date on it of 1938, and I think it's associated with this report. So let's look at how the mine is laid out. As you can tell, the Magnolia Group had quite a few claims attached to it. Now, kind of a side note, in the 1920s or 1930s, the Cougar Independence Group actually took this over and did some exploratory work on this mine, maybe a little production work as well. But early on, this was done in the mine was opened about 1890, operated up till about 1900 with some success. The report indicates that the early mine, they just used a regular stamp mill with amalgamation plates, and they probably lost more than they found. Because the gold was tied up in pyrite, and that kind of operation just really won't get all the gold out of that kind of ore. So they proposed in the 1930s to go back in with a flotation plant and followed up by cyanide to get the rest of the value out, which it sounds like they did do. But let's look, the tunnel or the adit we were just at was right here labeled tunnel number 1. The collapsed one we come across the first time was number 2, and somewhere up in that thick timber is number 3, which we didn't run across. You can see the old buildings we were just visiting right there. Down here, which you'll see in the video in just a minute, is the old mill site, and you'll hear me say in the video that I thought that was probably a 2 or a 5 stamp mill, just because I couldn't find any concrete foundation to indicate a larger mill, but the report indicates that was a 10 stamp mill, and it probably burnt down around 1910 or so. It indicates that the mill had burnt down many years previous, so I'm just estimating that burnt down around 1910. Here's a look at how the tunnels were laid out, what they label as tunnels, what we would call adits nowadays. So here's a look at how the tunnels were laid out as they were. Now here's a layout of how the adits are laid out. They labeled them as tunnels. Number 3, which we didn't come across, was about 160 to 190 feet long. Number 2 had a small raise coming up to the surface at some point. It was about 470 feet back in the hillside with a cross cut. And then number 1 down here was originally 760 feet long. That's probably from the original workings back in the 1890s. Whoever had the mine at the time this map was drawn extended it another 300 feet to 1,065. You'll notice here there was not a lot of stoping done on this original map. Now I'm thinking in the late 1930s, whoever had the claim at that time come in and stoped a lot of this material out, and that's the reason you see so many collapses on the surface now. They came back in, set up a small operation or a plant to handle that gold mixed with pyrite, and came back in and did quite a bit of stoping. As you can tell, this map, again, no date on it. I'm just guessing this was probably done in the 1920s because the other report indicates the Smith report was done in the 1920s. So I'm guessing that's when this map was done. Here's another map. This one, you'll notice that the other map showed the bottom level as number 1. This one shows it as number 3, and that's very common on these old maps. They'll go just randomly change the level numbers. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at old maps, that they don't always correlate to each other as far as labeling. So this is number 3 level on this map. Goes back, 1,065 feet, and here's the samples back in this area. They were getting about 1/4 ounce per ton. here, about 1/3 of an ounce per ton, and it shows the raise between the two levels. One last thing to note about this mine, when Lindgren come through and did some sampling, he indicated that the run of 2,000 tons of ore, they only retrieved about $9 per ton for the ore that was treated, and only a small percentage of the assay value was saved. When he took samples, it assayed out to about 0.94 ounces of gold and 1.3 ounces of silver per ton. So they were getting roughly half of the value out during that early process. So we're down just a little bit further, more waste rock. Looks like there was an adit there. Looks like somebody purposely backfilled that one. Looks like it was collapsed, and they made sure it stayed collapsed.
What's this right here?
Look at the waste rock. Don't think that adit was nearly as extensive as that upper one. Look back at the waste rock. Maybe a little more extensive than what I was thinking. I would guess 400 or 500 feet of workings there. It's also kind of hard to tell if they were following the vein. A lot of that material actually went out as ore to a processing mill or plant of some kind. So sometimes waste rock piles can be somewhat deceiving. If they're a cross-cut, yeah, you can usually tell exactly how far they go in, fairly close by looking at the waste rock. But some of these that they're actually drifting on a vein, you know, maybe half or more of the materials going out into the mill. So waste rock is not always a great indicator of how much working you have underground. Pretty sure up above us here is the old road bed. It looks like this was put in later. Another little workings right there. Not much, just kind of a prospect on the hillside there. And we're coming up to a gate. I don't know if that's an old Forest Service gate or what that is. But the way this hillside looks, it looked like there might have been an adit here at one time. There's something back here. It's 24 inch diameter. Boy, there's something up there. I just don't want to scratch my legs up more, but I'm going to have to. Well, guys, not exactly sure what I'm looking at here. Here's some pipes going straight in. A bunch of cribbing. I'm thinking this is where their mill was. That little road I pointed out earlier up on the hillside, I think it come around, and this was a little mill set up here. Not sure what that big, like 20-inch diameter pipe was for. Yep, that definitely looks like part of an old mill. Probably a 2 or 5 stamp mill of some kind. Neat. I don't see any cement footers, so it wasn't a very big mill. So right up there above the road is a small adit. You can kind of make out the waste rock pile. This is part of the Ajax Mine, and for reference, that gate is right up there. So this might have, that mill site might have been for this mine. That I was up there, that portal is closed. I just forgot to get it on camera. There should be another adit down here somewhere according to the map. Either that or there's another one further up the hillside. But I'm guessing because this is all wet, and right here is the adit. You guys walked right past this. This is indicated on the map, the Ajax Mine. And it is at least partially open. Yeah, if we would have brought the gear, we would have went for a little adventure in that one. Yeah, it's a little open. Well, it's a little adit that's open. I'm not sure how far back it's going to go. Let's go see if we can find out how much waste rock it has. And right over there is the waste rock. I would guess it goes back 300-400 feet or so, maybe more. This is extending quite a ways down here. Yeah, it might go back 500 or so feet. Yeah, decent size pile. I think I see some iron up there on the top. Let's go take a look at that real quick. Yeah, some old rails here. You can tell this mine has not operated in quite a while. I'd say this waste rock pile down here on this end's probably, I don't know, 40 feet across the bottom, good 30 feet tall. Fair amount of material. So let's dive into the history on this Ajax mine. It was worked in about 1905 to 1906. It looks like they took a fair amount of value out of one chute, about $40,000 in the upper tunnel, which we didn't look at during this video. Here's a map of this mine. This is the portal we were just at. The small little adit that I found was probably right about this area. This one's further up on the hillside. I didn't see it up there, but I think if we went back and climbed up there, we could probably find this one. But this is that stoped out area that they most likely took that good ore chute out of and got that $40,000 of value was right there. It indicates back here the vein is 45 feet thick. This property had at least 3 different veins on it. As you can tell, this went back a fair distance. So here's another map of this mine. This one was drawn in 1938. It's nice that they actually put dates on these maps. This lower working, we were just standing right here. Looks like it goes back in about 500 feet, maybe a little more with the cross cuts that are back there. The upper working is also about 500 feet in length. So one of these days we're going to have to go back and investigate this mine a little bit more. Okay guys, we're on our way out. Thanks for joining us for this impromptu video that we went and looked at this mine. Decided not to carry all the camera gear in, just using the cell phone with the 4K video. We're going to see what this turns out like. This is really a handy way to do things when you're trying to go in light. And you can see the road behind me. It's a good road, really good road coming in here. But not the way we came in. It was terrible. Instead of 1,000 feet from where we parked, it was a rough 1,000 feet. But anyway, there's nice little mines that we look at, the Magnolia and Ajax mines. I just spotted those on the map. I have no history with me on these mines. When the Cougar Independence didn't work out for us today, I saw those and, well, let's go take a look. And glad we finally took a look at those. We're up here camping, and hopefully we'll get a couple more mine visits while we're up here, and hopefully you'll see them on an upcoming episode. Let me know how you like the footage with this cell phone, this 4K video. Obviously I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know what it's going to look like, but it is very handy using the cell phone to shoot videos like this. It's light, not a lot of fuss carrying it in, not a lot of setup, so we'll see how this turns out. We may do some of these kind of mine explorers. We may just use a cell phone. We appreciate all the comments, likes, and the subscriptions, and the comments really help the YouTube, and so does the thumbs up. But, you know, we really enjoy reading those comments. It may take me a couple, 3 weeks. My wife reads them more often than I do. but I eventually get around to reading them. Just busy, so, but I do enjoy seeing those comments and getting to read those. So leave us a comment and give us a thumbs up once in a while. We really do appreciate it. Okay, off to the next mine. Actually, probably off to camp. And then tomorrow we'll go on another mine adventure. And hopefully you guys get to see that. I gotta find my kids. They decided to go rogue on me. Okay, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next video.